Out of gas. Stay tuned. Batman will be back in a moment.
Why do I always have to ride in this thing?
You see that, R?
When last we saw the Caped Crusader, he was at the altar about to be married to the diabolical Marsha, Queen of Diamonds. Only the words, "I do," stand between him and the bonds of wedlock.
Welcome back, citizens, to an all-new episode of the Batcave Podcast. It's your old bat chum, John S. Drew here, and we're moving along through the second season now, and we're getting into the later half. We're starting to see some more differences in the way the production is moving. Last time around, we had the introduction of the abbreviated capsulation of the previous night's episode. We didn't get a full story on there the way we used to get. And, you know, it's going to happen again in this episode, but in a way, it's kind of a good thing because there's not that much plot to talk about anyway. We're talking about Marsha, Queen of Diamonds. And since, again, I've got a new villain here, I've brought in a new guest host. He's an independent filmmaker, but he's also a long-time Batman fan. So long time, he's worked with folks like Adam West and Julie Newmar. He runs a page over on Facebook dedicated to Batman 66, and I've been, conversing with him on and off throughout this past year, and I was like, I got to get this man on. And let me tell you something, he earns a distinction here by being here for this episode, because any man who takes one for the team here that includes Batman, is the best in my book, and this man now gets to be on any episode he wants, no arguments, whatever. Let me introduce you to Mr. Robert Long. How you doing, Robert?
Good morning, John. I'm doing great.
Oh, I had to thank you again for being here, because honestly, when I put the call out, it was crickets. It just sat there, Marsha, Queen of Diamonds, and then you and I started talking, and I said, hey, Robert, you want to do an episode? You're like, of course, yeah, I'd love to do an episode. And I said, I hit you with it. I said, Marsha, Queen of Diamonds. And you were quiet for a day or so. And then all of a sudden you came back and you said, sure. It was just, sure, why not? And I was like, okay, that's it. This is the man. This is the man.
I came back to you. I remember that. It's like, oh, I'd love to do Clock King, or I'd love to do this or that. And it's like, I have Marsha, Queen of Diamonds. And I'm like, okay.
Well, and in watching it, there's some moments that I was like, this is really cool, but just overall, yeah, this is going to be an interesting one. Now, the episodes are called Marsha, Queen of Diamonds, and Marsha's Scheme of Diamonds, and I made the mistake of saying in the Ma Parker episode that she had the distinction of being the only villain to have her name as the title of the episode. I stand corrected here because we have Marsha, Queen of Diamonds. These episodes aired on November 23rd and 24th of 1966. Before we get into this, though, Robert, tell us a little bit. Like, you've worked with Adam West, you've worked with Julie Newmar. You have this long association with Batman and this long love for it. Why? What is it for you when it comes to Batman?
Oh, okay. Well, I'll try to keep this concise. Let's just say early 70s, my father brought me a Batman comic book, fell in love with the character, and this was about the time that the reruns were showing. And I really got into the whole style of the show and just loved it and have followed it for those decades. And I met Adam West back in the late 80s, and being a graphic designer, he loved my art, so we worked on his book a little bit together. And the same thing with Julie. She liked my art style, and I did some poster-like prints for her as well.
So you're actually also a first-generation syndication Batman baby.
That would be me.
That
yes.
would be you. See, now that's interesting, too. That's like, again, somebody who's brought into it in the 70s. And I get the feeling, and am I wrong? I know that Batman, obviously, in the 60s had its popularity. but do you think that it had just as equal a popularity with that syndication run in the 70s?
That's a good question. All I can tell you is that all of us kids, that was the show we waited for in the afternoon to watch.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, it was an expensive show to make, which is why they stopped making it, but it remained popular for, I'd say, a couple decades, starting in about 70, 71.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember myself, and it was just like every day coming home and negotiating with my mom that I would do my homework immediately after I got to watch Bat, because she wanted it done right away. Get it done, and then you can watch your shows. And it's like, well, my show is on now. I want to watch it, and then I'll do my homework.
Well, and it was going to be a show that taught you about good citizenship. So, it's like, Mom, you got to cut me some slack here.
Yes, yeah. So let's talk about this episode here. And right off the bat, the opening is odd in many respects. I mean, because first off, we're told that the villain is in town and to look sharp. I mean, we're usually we see the villain, yes, but it's only afterwards that Gordon and O'Hara are in the office and they go, this has all the earmarks of ex-villain. They know Marsha's in town. And also off the bat, this has more of a comedy. I know they've always said Batman has a comedy slant, or some even just categorize it as straight up comedy. This really is a comedy episode. I mean, right from the very beginning, where our cop O'Leary is walking around talking, and he's telling O'Toole, O'Rourke, and Goldberg, which I never understood that. Even to this day, I guess that's supposed to be funny. It's like we give a list of names of people we stereotypically consider to be that particular role, and then we throw out just a name at random that, just sounds funny, because, all the cops are Irish except for the one Jewish guy. See, but I never got the humor in that. I just always thought, okay, and now it's like when I see it, I just wait for the punchline because it's just such an old joke.
Yeah, I think at this point the writers or whomever probably thought they were too clever. Everybody's like, oh, we're going to slip something in and it's going to be a gas. So, and it just went over people's heads. It's like, what?
Yeah. And the humor continues. O'Hara shows up with Marsha, Queen of Diamonds, brings her into the jewelry store, escorted by the rest of the police officers who were supposed to be keeping watch. And we automatically see with the jeweler when he's like, O'Hara says, do you know who I am? And he takes the eyepiece and he's scanning up. I mean, it's all physical, and it's a little almost too forced for Batman. And when she asks, Marsha asks for the bag, for the pretzel diamond, and you'd think he'd take out a real bag or something. He pulls out a brown paper bag to throw it into.
Yeah, the first season is definitely gone by this point.
By this point, it's definitely not a first season episode. Absolutely. But I'd almost liken this one. See, and I've had this theory going on that, the second season is a mix of, there's really very few episodes that are really second season. They're either first or third. And I would liken this more to a third season episode.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. The comedy, it definitely got very broad. I was surprised that the diamond was not shaped like a pretzel.
Exactly. That was one thing. It's like, why would you call it a pretzel diamond if it's not shaped like a pretzel?
Let's just get on with this beast.
All right, so now we cut to the Batcave. And we cut to the Batcave. I mean, it's not, okay, we're upstairs, in Wayne Manor. We're down in the Batcave already, and Batman and Robin working away on the Bat Diamond.
Do be careful, sir.
There's no danger with the power off, Alfred.
You think we'll have to replace it, Batman?
I certainly hope not, Robin. There. You may turn the power on, Alfred. Yes, I think it's going to work now.
Lucky for us. It takes 6 months to manufacture another bat diamond that big, even with a giant hydraulic bat press.
Yes, it would be difficult, especially since, for our purposes, it has to be far more pure than a natural diamond.
One moment, Commissioner. It's Commissioner Gordon, sir.
I'll take it on the bat extension up here, Alfred. Yes, Commissioner.
And we also see that there is a bat phone extension. It was kind of cool to see these new devices, to see these big props and such, but it's just weird because we don't get You know, and I've said this too, second season thing is, let's get right to the action. Let's have Batman and Robin. We cut as quickly as we can. We really cut it out this time because we don't get Bruce and Dick at all. We get no bat poles. It's like we just get the phone call and we're on our way.
Yeah. I really did. I did like the beginning with the Bat Diamond introduced. I thought that was okay. They're trying something different. But then I started thinking, wait a minute. I don't think Bruce and Dick show up at all, except for maybe the end of this episode in this entire story. So it was a little strange.
Yeah, no, not for the entire episode, and it's just so odd how, I don't know, like the dictates of the story or how it works, because a few weeks ago we had Egghead, and there's tons of Bruce and Dick, and then just before that we had Liberace, as Shandell, or just after that we had Liberace, and there's no Adam West, for that matter, and Burt Ward for the good part of the first episode. Forget about Bruce and Dick or Batman and Robin. We don't have any Adam West and Burt Ward. I just find it so strange how the second season, on the one hand, they're trying out all these different things as far as so that they don't seem like they're getting too formulaic, but it seems to be at the cost of character development, of what little there was, or just even screen time for the actors to actually show their faces.
It came at the suffering of the story, it feels like. And like you said, the character development. We used to get little bits about how Batman became to be, and actually a little bit of depth of what's going on at Wayne Manor, and it's really cutting it to the quick now.
Now, when you worked with Adam West, I'm assuming you got a chance to talk to him about, the series and such. Did he ever give you any indication that, he had to fight for some of these things at times? Because I know, like, for instance, in the Batman movie, there's a big part of it is because you go because you want to see Batman. But a good chunk of it right in the middle is Adam, just himself as Bruce Wayne. And frankly, I always appreciated those things. To me, Adam West is still my favorite Bruce Wayne to this day.
Oh, he's great, yeah. Not so much Adam as far as what I heard from other people kind of what was going on within the second season, and there was just a lot of changes. They were definitely on their high during the second season, and there was a lot of changes as to how the characters were played, and they were doing 3 episodes a week, just interchanging between sets. So a lot started to fall through the cracks, and Adam did say a little bit about how it's like he wished they had stuck to the original villains of the comics, because they were just bringing people in, and it's like this doesn't gel. So.
Yeah, there were a lot of them that didn't gel, and that includes even our current villain here, Marsha, and such. It is a shame because they managed to, when they took the comics, it's not like they lifted everything verbatim, but what they did was they took them and then gave them, their TV spin, but they used it as the springboard, and it worked.
Oh, absolutely. And I think you've said this before, John, is that they match the actor to the character, and that's what works so well.
Right. Instead of trying to create the character around the actor, which is what it seems to be more here in this second season. Yeah. Mm. But since we don't get any of this in terms of, to the bat poles and all that, we do get, though, at least as a little perk, is a longer car scene as the Batmobile is, screaming towards Gotham City, including, and am I mistaken on this, is we actually get a shot, though, because all the shots are going forward, but the end shot there just before, I guess, they're going to arrive in Gotham City is actually a stock shot of the Batmobile returning to the Batcave.
Oh, I've watched this episode a couple of times in the last couple of weeks and did not notice that. So if you picked up on that, that's very cool. Well, maybe they forgot something. It's Bat Wallet or something.
well, considering the fact that we actually, again, and it's another difference, we don't cut to Police Commissioner Gordon's headquarters. We cut instead to Marsha putting O'Hara in a cage. Yeah.
I think she borrowed those from the Penguin.
Yes. We're always thrilled whenever we see O'Hara and Gordon out of the office and getting a chance to do something more than just sit there and either argue with each other over who Batman is, or talk about how great the Gotham City Police Department is, but let's give credit where credit is due. It's always nice to see them out, but this is just, it's painful as O'Hara is begging Marsha to stay with him, and then we see as she walks away, we've got more, Meg.
Oh, yeah.
I would have been curious who they were.
Yeah, and if you don't pick up on it a little later, I've got actually a little tidbit about that particular set. But yeah, it's, she's got all of her suitors there, and the set's as dull as like the interior of a Days Inn.
Yeah. Actually, other than the, commenting on the fact that, because another staple of third season is that the sets become a lot less remarkable. I don't have anything on that, so if you want to throw that in, go right for it.
Oh, no, it has more to do with once Robin gets captured. There's something that I want to see if you noticed. But,
okay.
Yeah, it's a very dull set. It's not quite the high school production sets of the third season, but they're not trying like the first season anymore.
No, they're not. Well, they're not trying in so many ways, too, because, one of the other things about Marsha, Queen of Diamonds is, other than her obsession with diamonds, there's nothing really that shapes or shows who she is as a character. We've got these Arabian Night Guards, they're all dressed up with their turbans and everything and their swords. Is she supposed to be Arabic? With her setting there's nothing there. Like at least Catwoman, with Catwoman's lair, it's this obsession with cats and the things that hang down and stuff, but nothing to give you any other clue of who she is. And then, for that matter, she's acting more like Morticia than anything else. You know what I'm saying?
It's incredibly frustrating, John, because, like you said, it's like queen of what? What where's she from?
Yeah.
What is this motif? There are no diamonds in this place. It all looks like something from a Johnny Quest episode. And actually, her set is just a redressing of Liberace's hotel suite.
Oh, really? Wow.
So, it's just, it's like, okay, she's Queen of Diamonds, but I'm not really seeing a whole lot of diamonds around here. And what's with the, she's got Ben Ali or her servants and that, and you can't get much more Caucasian than Carolyn Jones.
Right. Yeah. And now that you just think, you're thinking off the top of my head, the Queen of Diamonds, it's like, as a kid even, my first thought is cards. And I'm like, even if there was just a few giant card props with the Queen of Diamonds on there, just something, but nothing was done.
No, not a thing. Set up the colored gels and go home.
Yeah, there you go. And we get more of this weird humor again, and it's forced, as her main henchman there, the Grand Mogul, tells her about how...
Your report, Grand Mogul.
The usual, Your Highness. One of your admirers attempted suicide as proof of his devotion. He threw himself into an automatic dryer and tried to tumble himself to death, but failed.
How boring.
I don't know. And again, just like, a lot of the second season episodes, we're not given much in the way of trying to figure out what the grand scheme is. She tells us right off the bat, I want that bat diamond. I'm going to have it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Not a complicated story this time out.
No. She does have, though, a Cupid statue that she has these love potion darts, so she has that readied because she's expecting company.
Where is Chief O'Hara? What have you done with him, you diabolical man, Harry? If you found a hair in O'Hara's head, I'll have you in jail for the rest of your life.
Oh, don't be tiresome, darling. Here, sit down next to me and relax.
Your hanky-panky won't work with me, young lady. I want O'Hara.
You don't find me the least bit attractive?
Your charms are useless, you evil temptress. I'm not going to dance to your little tune.
Really?
My only concern is Chief O'Hara. Where is he? You are my only concern, Marsha. You beautiful creature. future. I'm yours to command.
That's better, darling. Tell me more.
Now, I didn't get it at first. This was actually a little bit, good, because I'm like thinking to myself, at the very beginning of the episode, Gordon calls Batman, tells him O'Hara's been acting weird, whatever, yada, yada, yada. And Batman's like, that's not like him. Off they go. So they're heading to Police Commissioner Gordon's headquarters. When we open with Act 1 there, where he's in the cage, he's just getting off the phone with Commissioner Gordon. And we don't get much in the way of what the conversation was. He goes, that's right, Commissioner. All right. And he says goodbye, and that's it. It turns out he's telling Commissioner Gordon where he is. And see, that's odd. It's like, why didn't you include that in there? Because there's a lot of bits of padding in this episode, and there's other parts where you could have expanded on things and actually brought out the story a little more. Here they just show him hanging up the phone saying, okay, Commissioner, take care or whatever, bye-bye. And Marsha goes off. And she's going on about her guest that's coming. My thought first was she was preparing for Batman. I liked it in one way, but on the other way, it's like, considering how thin this episode is, that could have worked out a little better. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, oh, boy. Exactly. I mean, and you try not to put logic into second season episodes because you'll go insane. But, we have no idea what the conversation was. It's like, don't bring any other officers or she's going to off me or this. I mean, why didn't he come with a brigade to bust in on them? So I just... It
also just comes down to me also another plot problem is, why didn't she just have O'Hara call Batman directly and say, I'm in trouble or whatever, Marsha's got me. She lures Gordon in, and then Gordon lures Batman in. Is it that they figured that maybe Batman wouldn't go after O'Hara?
Well, I mean, maybe she tried and the potion just wasn't strong enough. It's like, I've got some issues with Batman. I love you and all, but, he's always picking on my police department.
Yeah.
So.
Now, I will say, though, I did like the way that Neil Hamilton played this off when he first gets there. It's just the anger and the indignation that he has when, he's standing before Marsha there and he refuses to even admit she's attractive and such so. But then when he becomes the groveler, it's like, oh, wow.
But I really do. There are certain things about this episode that I do appreciate. And one is just Neil Hamilton. He was all business on the show, but, he would allow himself to be poked fun of. I mean, he gets a dart right in the derriere there. So.
Yeah. No, actually, I've heard that too, that he was always very, right to the point and get, which is so odd that you would think such an actor then would lend himself to a series like this. But whenever even like the most outrageous things would happen to Gordon, and I'm thinking in terms of, Surf's Up, Joker's Under there, or, but you know what? There he is, and he's got the glasses, and he's, he's in the hat and everything, and he's calling O'Hara Skippy, I think it was. God bless him. He was really good in it.
Skippy and Buzzy, I think.
Skippy and Buzzy, yeah. So O'Hara gets captured. And now Gordon gets captured, so Batman gets the call. He's at police headquarters, and he gets the call from Gordon asking him to come. So off they go, and while we're waiting for them to arrive, we're introduced to Aunt Hilda.
Double, toil and trouble. Bubble, bubble. An ocean of potions making a commotion. I have a potion that will do anything you want it to.
Really, Aunt Hilda? Don't you think you're carrying this thing a bit too far?
Can't you let an old lady have a little fun?
You go right ahead, darling, and have all the fun you want to. Just as long as your potions keep getting results.
Remember, I was chemistry professor at Vassar for 20 years, dearie.
I remember. I also remember they fired you.
Yes, I tried one of my potions in the college cafeteria, and it turned the entire student body orange for a week. That was before I'd completed my research. My potions are much better now.
Yes, they have been getting good results. But now I need a very special potion for a very special purpose.
This is my best batch, my very best batch. It's just lovely, and I've even added a pound of dugong blubber.
Is it powerful enough to work on Batman?
Ooh, Batman is a special case. Bats have a very strong resistance to occult powers. But if anything will work, this will. Pass me the salt, dearie.
Now, what did you think of Aunt Hilda? She was always something that, or someone, I should say, who, when I watched this, she irritated me.
Well, Estelle Winwood,
yes,
who played her, and to me, it's just like we've already gone down that rabbit hole, so it can't get much worse. But the one thing that it does explain is where Marsha's getting her love potions from.
Right.
The bad part of it is, why is this character necessary? So, and we get a sock puppet in there as well, so it's like, oh, okay. So
I will say, though, I was impressed, because in doing some of the research for this about Winwood there, was that she was already in her 80s when she did this role. She didn't really look it.
No, she was very spry.
Yeah.
And very sharp.
Yeah. I mean, she went on acting in television until 1980, when she was well in her 90s, and then she passed away at the age of 101 in 84. I was like, my God, that's impressive.
That is.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah. But now, another example of the comedy and how we're definitely playing this for laughs. I mean, we're not even trying to be subtle and do, little jokes or whatever. This is a comedy, because after this scene with Aunt Hilda, and Carolyn Joan walks off, we get the bat swirl, the transition swirl. The sound is exaggerated. It's sped up and a little chirpy.
Huh.
I'm like, and it's done for comedic effect. And I caught that. I'm like, that's not the bat swirl. They're going for the laughs. They're really going for the laughs full out this time.
I didn't catch that. And if there's any episode where you would welcome more stock shots or more unsped up things, this is the episode. So it's like, why did they speed it up?
Well, it certainly made MeTV's job easier this time around when they air it.
Yeah.
So the two arrive at Marsha's headquarters, and Batman, once again, just like Commissioner Gordon, he's not going to fall for her charms and such. And at the same time, though, he's a gentleman by reminding Robin that you should pay her some respect, even if she may not be a lady, she's a woman. So you have to talk accordingly. But
well, they got to slip those etiquette lessons in there. So
they do. They do.
And I mean, it's you just get the feeling that this was a Poison Ivy episode and they couldn't get Anne Margaret.
Wouldn't that have been something if it had been Poison Ivy instead of Marsha, Queen of Diamonds?
It would have made sense.
Yeah. Oh, but I do like the fact, and I don't think this has ever happened to him with Poison Ivy, I do like the fact that when Batman gets jabbed by Cupid, he struggles.
Poison?
Oh, not poison, darling. Merely a disposition improver.
It's some kind of a drug, Robin. It's spending my will.
Batman.
Marsha.
Batman.
Oh, Marsha.
Batman.
Marsha.
Fight it, Batman.
I'm trying, Robin. It's some kind of love-inducing drug. It's trying to bend my will, Robin. To make me fall in love with Marsha.
Batman.
Holy fate, worse than death. You've got to resist it.
I'm trying, Robin.
Don't try to fight it, darling. Relax and worship me. Worship me, I said, on your knees.
understand, Marsha. Your drug didn't work.
You did it, Batman.
It wasn't easy, Robin. It took every last ounce of my willpower.
You mean you're not in love with me?
I'm not even mildly interested.
Outrageous!
And even though, yes, he's never done this before, I still liked it. I mean, because usually when he does get hit by some potion or other, he succumbs to it. But he fights this one off. I don't know, maybe it's just because he doesn't have time for love as a crime fighter, so he's, it's an easier emotion to slip off than just straight up mind control or something. But I love that line of his when she's like, don't you find me attractive? And he's like, I'm not even mildly interested. I did laugh at that.
That was probably the best line read of the whole episode. That one got a chuckle from me.
It's so funny because a lot of people remember Adam West and Batman, and they think of it as hokey, and I'm like, in watching this, one of the things I'm like, not only does he get some of the best lines, but he delivers those lines so perfectly. I mean, I think about the Ma Parker episode where she's careening down the hallway and Robin goes, she's going to go through the wall, or she's not going to make it through the wall, and he just deadpan. She didn't. Yeah. He's got a way about him in delivering lines. It's just so fascinating. I love it.
And not to sidestep too much here, but it's watch the first season versus the second season. Adam is on fire during the first season because they are stepping on each other's lines, and it's action-packed and it's dead serious. And somewhere along the lines of where the movie came in, Adam started turning into William Shatner. And it drove Bert crazy because he was putting more dramatic pauses and this and that, and it's like, hey, we got to keep this going. We got 22 minutes here. It's uneven during the second season because sometimes he really has that first season feel to him. And sometimes you can tell that it's like, hey, it's me time. But I digress.
No, you're not digressing at all, because I've said this too before. Especially with that first season, Adam allowed himself to be the joke. He was the straight man in this crazy world, and he would say these lines, and we laughed at him. And after a while, I think Adam probably was like, no, I want to laugh with you, and I want to be, and I think he I don't think it was ever a case of he took himself too seriously. That was never the problem. I think he just was like, he just started wanting to be in on the joke, and because of it, it shattered the whole illusion of Gotham City.
Yeah.
Because that is a world in itself. I've often said I would love to see Batman today where, the real world finally encroaches on Gotham City. And we find that it's still the same Gotham City. They're still the nicest people in the world, and Batman is still fighting the good fight and stuff. He's older now and stuff. And the real world encroaches in, and that's when, like, Starbucks wants to open up a shop and stuff like that. And it's just, it just gets ugly. It just gets ugly.
Okay. Well, I will say one thing about Burt Ward. In the 3 seasons, I don't think he ever got out of line as far as the acting is concerned. The Boy Wonder was always the Boy Wonder, and I appreciated that out of Burt.
Oh, yeah. No, I agree with you, too. And, I said this recently in the Egghead episode, how, despite the fact that they had set up that prank with the eggs with him, he could have halted this, but the professional that he was, and he quickly was becoming a professional at this, even though this was his first gig, really, his acting, was, because they knew it was the end of the night, they knew, he kept going. He let them do it. I mean, he might have thought to himself, wait a minute, that's way too many eggs, but he didn't stop. He just went and kept the scene rolling. That's impressive to me, and I'll always appreciate that. And again, I also say, out of all the Robins, he is my favorite Robin.
Oh, he is definitely the Boy Wonder.
Yeah.
I mean, there is no other.
No.
Okay, so where were we?
Well, okay, since he's not even mildly interested.
Carve them into camel food.
Yes, Your Highness.
Now, she starts to ready another dart, and I've got a question for you. Maybe you can answer this one, because I saw it on IMDb, but they didn't really explain it. At one point in the fight, Burt Ward is making every effort to keep his right side covered, his arm and such, with the cape. And he's doing a pretty good job, but at one point he can't help it. He sort of flails his arm out, and we see the ace bandage. What happened to him?
Oh, gosh. You know, I don't have an immediate answer right now, but since they were doing 2 or 3 episodes a week as far as, switching out themes, he probably got hurt. Explosion or a smoke bomb hit his arm or something like that. I mean, that was very common.
Right. Yeah, I remember seeing in Back to the Batcave how he got injured quite often during the first season especially. But, all right, here's the other thing. So, she gets the dart, she gets Robin.
No! He's mine.
With the dart and such, and now he's under her control. Batman gives in because he won't fight Robin, which is fine. I got no problem with that. But then Marsha says, I want to get into the Batcave. I want that Bat Diamond. I want to be the one. It's not just a matter of you give it to me. I want to, and this is a personal thing with her. Okay, fine. But he then says, I made a sacred vow that no stranger would ever enter the Batcave. Huh? And right there, the whole plot falls apart because a simple matter of, okay, Marsha, Batgas, you and me will go to the Batcave. You can take the diamond, Batgas back again. You've got the diamond. Give me the boy. No. Doesn't. He's sticking to this vow that he suddenly has.
Yeah. Where was this vow a few, last season?
Right. Exactly. Where we had at least 3 visits there by moles, and I think 1 by Commissioner Gordon. For that matter, he lets Penguin into the Batcave in the movie.
Yeah, and 5 henchmen.
And 5 henchmen.
Yeah, it falls apart. But if I can just back up one little bit, though,
sure.
To the bat fight between Batman and Robin, you just get the feeling that Burt relished those episodes where he gets to turn bad. It's like, yeah, I'm the second banana here, and I'm going to take stage, and that those are always fun. But it's like, okay, so you're a stranger, you're not going to be allowed in here to the Batcave. What are we going to do? And here we get ridiculous.
Here we get really ridiculous. Well, I can't be a stranger if I'm married to you. Yeah. And which sets up our whole cliffhanger. I think probably the worst cliffhanger of all as well.
Do you, Marsha, take this Batman to be your lawful wedded husband, to love, honor, and obey as long as you both shall live?
I do.
And do you, Batman, take this woman to be your lawful wedded wife, to love, honor, and cherish as long as you shall live?
I
say I do.
Mr. and Mrs. Batman, the dynamic duo may become a trio. The Queen of Diamonds aims high. Find out tomorrow whether she misses or Mrs. Same bat time, same bat channel. And hang on to your rice.
The wedding of Batman. I mean, this is like something like you'd see out of the comic books every once in a while, back in the 50s and 60s. And here it is, he's got to say I do as we come to the end of that first episode. But I like, though, at least we do get something, though, that we don't normally get in a lot of the episodes as a way of a hint off as to how they can escape this one, because there's Alfred and Aunt Harriet watching the news on TV, and they determine they've got to do something to help Batman.
Yes.
You know. What they're going to do, we don't know yet. But we know that, okay, there's a plan in action. Something's going to happen. It's not going to be, I don't know, suddenly a bat pill or something from the utility belt. It's somebody else has to help Batman.
When it comes to the second parter of this is actually my favorite scene out of this entire block of episode. So we do get to see Adam and Aunt Harriet in action.
Stop the wedding!
Yes, very nicely done too, because, in they come, and Alfred reveals that there is a Mrs. Batman.
This is no time for pranks, my good man. We are in the midst of a sacred ceremony.
I assure you, sir, this is no prank.
Who are you?
Ethelbert Soames, solicitor at law with the firm of Soames, Stillwell and Thistlewaite, Liverpool, England. My card. My card. My card.
What has this to do with the wedding?
Allow me to present my client, formally Miss Henrietta Tillotson of Morton-in-the-Marsh, Gloucestershire.
What do you mean, formally?
I mean that for the last 7 years, she has been Mrs. Batman.
Mrs. Batman?
Yes. If you'd care to examine the wedding certificate. Duly attested by the registrar at Morton-in-the-Marsh and dated 7 years ago.
Why didn't you tell me about this, Batman?
Slipped my mind?
Slipped your mind, indeed. I am not in the practice of marrying bigamists.
Why, you two-timing bat-fink! How dare you leave a poor, defenseless girl waiting at the altar?
Not poor, I hope, madam. We are instituting a lawsuit for $1 million for the alienation of the husband's affections.
Let's get out of here.
Now, what's odd is that I thought it was a little too soon when Marsha realizes that Batman is going to become a bigamist, that he's okay with bigamy. She runs off. She's disgusted. Even the bad guy is disgusted. It was a little too soon because Batman steps up to Aunt Harriet, who's wearing the black veil, and she reveals herself, and he's like Mrs. Cooper and all this. There were still people in the church. I thought like you tipped your hand too soon about what you did to do this.
Yeah, you're surprised that you didn't see it in the Gotham Times.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Because this is big news. Batman's a bigamist.
Well, it was the swinging 60s.
Yes.
It was so good to see Madge Blake get a juicy role for once.
Yeah, I agree. I know I've had guests on who feel like Aunt Harriet served no purpose other than to appease Frederick Wortham, but I liked Madge Blake a lot, and I liked the episodes like Zelda the Great and Chandelle, where she had more substance and more of a meatier part, like you said, to it, and this is another great one.
Oh yeah, this is the highlight, and she had good chemistry with Alan Napier, so yes. It was. If I can say one thing, that is one ugly church interior, though.
Yes, it is. Another ugly, simplistic, Another thing I also love about this, Alfred gets to ride off in the Batmobile. Although and Harry doesn't think it odd that Batman's like, can I borrow Alfred, And Alfred points out he's brought along the Bat Antidote kit. Good thinking, Alfred, there. I would have thought that Batman would have had that somewhere either in the Batmobile in his utility belt, but okay, off they go. Marsha, we come back to her, and she's, figuring she'll get Robin to help her escape, but an alarm goes off. Batman is, making his way inside, and, again, more comedy. It's like, okay, where are the guards? Well, they're held up in traffic, so the two have to run off and make a mistake. Now, did you catch this also at the end, the very end, as Batman is opening the cage to Robin's, that Robin is in? There was a bird chirp sound.
It looks like it's working, Alfred.
What happened, Batman? How did I get in here?
It's a long story, Robin. I'll explain later. Alfred, give Chief O'Hara and the Commissioner each one of those tablets, and tell the Commissioner to meet me later at the office. Yes, you think you can make it, Robin?
I think so. I feel woozy.
I know. We'll take you back to the Batcave where you can get some rest, and we can try to deduce the Queen of Diamonds' next move. She'll stop at nothing to get her hands on the Bat Diamond.
I thought it was a squeak at first, and I went back and I listened to it 2 or 3 times. It was a bird chirp. I don't know if it was because it was Robin, because they were in cages, It just was so weird. It comes out of nowhere.
Well, it was the cage alarm sound, I guess. Who knows? Yeah. But the one thing I did notice in that scene, and I don't know if you picked up on it as well, is what had happened to the other suitors.
Yes, they're gone. They're gone. All we have left is Gordon and O'Hara.
Yeah.
Maybe they all went into the dryer. You're right, though. You're right, because we had three of them in the opening in episode 1, and like I said, I would have loved to have known their stories. What were they part of the master plan? Were they just something else? As far as Marsha was concerned, I don't know. Maybe she had other schemes going, which would have made her more interesting.
Oh, yes, yes. Yeah, that's we got a big old shortage of interesting in these episodes.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Whoo! But yeah, so they do get in, and you got to wonder with O'Hara and Gordon waking up. It's like, what's with the British guy here?
What's with the Brit? And that was always something that irritated me, though, was just the convenience of sometimes we knew Alfred right off the bat, and then other times it took a little while, like in this episode, for us to realize, oh, wait a minute, you're so and so, and then other times it's like, have no clue who you are. And that was especially bad with the Penguin, who seemed to tussle with Alfred a couple of times, and he would tend to forget who Alfred was.
Well, again, not to get off point too much, but they did have some continuity between the first and the second season with the Penguin and Alfred, but that got thrown to the wind by the third season.
Yes, exactly, because he's playing the minister who's supposed to marry Penguin and Barbara Gordon.
It's like, I know a minister when I see one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We cut down to Marsha. She's run downstairs to the basement, and she's consulting with Hilda. And it's just another moment for some more comedy.
Isn't she taking a bubble bath?
Yes, which is kind of funny. A woman in her late 80s in a cauldron of bubbles. That image is a little funny.
Yeah, you just hope that she washed it out well before she took the bath, because she's been making some weird stuff.
That's true. So what I did like, though, was that when we cut to the next scene, there's Robin lying on a table in the Batcave, still recovering. One of the things that the tropes of television, even back then, was the quick recovery. No, this drug did some damage to Robin, and, I like...
You were shot by the same type of dart, and it didn't affect you the same way.
Oh, it did, Robin, it did. I just called on all my resources to combat it.
I called on all mine, too. But all of a sudden, there I was on my knees, worshiping her.
Oh, it's merely the difference of a few years, old chum. An older head can't be put on younger shoulders.
Commissioner Gordon and Chief O'Hara have older heads, and look what happened to them.
Yes, I know. It wasn't pretty.
It was good, and that was a nice scene between Bert and Adam. I did like Bert's line. I think he said, Commissioner Gordon and Chief O'Hara had old heads.
Yeah.
Like, thanks, Robin.
And this is the only part of the episode where we see any real detecting, any real, trying to figure something out when it comes to this whole story going on. Because otherwise it's all been very straightforward, connect the dots type of thing where, they determine that Marsha is hiding out in the basement of her headquarters. So, of course, they're going to head out and, deal with her there. And you'd think that the start of Act 2, because that cuts to a commercial, you'd think you'd come back to Act 2 and, they'd be sneaking in or something right off. No. We get another added scene.
As Batman said, if it hadn't been for you, he'd be on his honeymoon right now.
The Caped Crusader is too kind. After all, I only did what any citizen of Gotham City would have done.
And lucky you did, sir.
Yes, good thinking and very inventive, I might add. Producing a past wife of Batman's who never existed.
Oh, but she very definitely exists, sir.
Batman's ex-wife?
No. The lady who played the part, sir. Mrs. Harriet Cooper, Dick Grayson's aunt. In fact, it was her idea, giving credit where credit is due.
Now I know where I've heard your voice before. Aren't you, Alfred, the Wayne butler?
Yes, sir, I am, yes.
Well, Alfred, if I ever need a wife on the spur of the moment, I'll know... Begorra, I forgot. Bonnie said that me wife called when I was out, and I haven't called her back.
The same with me, Chief O'Hara.
For the same reason, Commissioner Gordon?
Well, being a wife, I'm sure she wonders about my temporary absence, both from the office as well as from home.
And being a husband, what do you plan to tell her?
The truth. What else?
That you were hit by a Cupid's dart, that you pleaded for the Queen of Diamonds' love on your knees, that you were locked in a gilded cage.
It does sound rather far-fetched, doesn't it?
Sure, and I couldn't have made up such a story myself. The wife never would believe it.
If I may interject a thought.
Please do.
My experience of women has been that they tend to believe what they want to believe. So, and knowing you both to be conscientious gentlemen and faithful husbands, I'm sure that if you just tell both your wives that you were involved in some special and confidential assignment, that will suffice.
Have you ever been married?
No.
Alfred, at the risk of sounding pompous, experience with women and experience with wives are two vastly different things.
Amen.
Well, we've all learned something from this little escapade, have we not? And now, if you'll excuse me, I must be getting back to my duties at Wayne Manor.
Of course, Alfred, and thank you again.
Commissioner, Chief O'Hara.
If you care to use my private phone to call home, Chief O'Hara.
After you, Commissioner Gordon.
No, please, after you.
No, sir. It's your office and your phone. You go right ahead.
It's a nice character piece for the three, I guess you would call them secondary characters to the series. You know, it gives them a little moment to shine, but it's like, what are we doing here? It's filler.
Yeah.
That there's no other word for it. It's filler. So,
it's filler where if they'd just done some of the other, even like I said, tropes, if Adam and Bert had been Bruce and Dick upstairs or something, I don't know. It's just like so many other things where we could have done things, and yet it seems like a lot of filler, a lot of moments here and there that to fill out a story that really had no substance to begin with.
Well, you wonder if they were throwing like Alan Napier a bone or something, and maybe he was like, "Hey, I'd like a little bit more screen time in some of these shows," and the guy's like, "Well, this one really has nothing to it. Let's give Alan some lines."
Right. We get to the basement. Batman and Robin arrive, and they're confronted by Hilda and Marsha. Hilda tosses her potion at them. It doesn't work.
Oh, jeez, yeah.
I often wondered about that. I mean, I'm not familiar with the material of the costume, but how uncomfortable it must have been whenever they were in scenes where they had to get wet. I'm especially thinking in terms of the giant clam with the Joker and such, and they're in that water and such. Because, a bat fight breaks out, and throughout it, there's Hilda walking about throwing more of the potions as she's trying to fix it.
I'm sure this one will work. It's guaranteed to turn them into lizards.
You said the last one would have them running around on the floor, squeaking.
This time, I'll add a little more, just to make sure.
Throwing it first on Batman, then throwing it on Robin, and again, nothing's working. But they're getting wet.
They're getting wet, and the one thing I do know is that those costumes were uncomfortable, and they were not made out of great material.
Missed again. I don't know what's wrong. Nothing seems to be working today. This one has to work. It's one of my best potions.
It better be, darling. My guardians are falling like ninepins.
Bert had that wool red pullover which stuck to his skin the entire time. And there was actual paint in his tights to get it that kind of flesh color.
Really?
So, yeah, they dyed it and it just clung to the fibers.
Another 0.
Playtime is over, darling. Let the grown-ups take charge.
Diamond dosing gas, Batman.
Try not to breathe.
And the top was made of wool.
Yeah, the red vest was, so it was constantly poking straight through the green T-shirt that he wore, and he finally got it lined with silk so that it wouldn't do that.
Wow, yeah, that would chafe you a lot.
And of course, Adam couldn't hear anything with that helmet on. Yeah, no, I mean that's why you see so many behind the scenes shots of them. You know, Bert's only got the green on and he's not wearing the mask, and Adam definitely doesn't have the cowl on.
Yeah, he probably doesn't put it on until he absolutely has to.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, here we go. Very end of the episode, we're finally getting something that is a trade, I guess would be a trademark of hers, although I don't know if it comes back in her next episode. But she tosses like a little smoke bomb, and Robin exclaims that it's diamond dozing gas. Yeah. Well, I'm like, okay, all right, it's something that's hers at least that she can claim, you know? I'm like clinging to these little bits and going, there's something.
Anything, throw me a bone.
Throw me a bone, exactly.
Oh, gosh.
So they're knocked out, and again, another weird thing. We're almost at the end of the episode, and yet we've captured Batman and Robin. So, but this is where it really starts to get to me, because honestly, you almost get the feeling this should have been the cliffhanger, you know, instead of the wedding, because they're caught. Hilda pours one more potion. She guarantees it's going to work and turn them into toads. And we cut to headquarters where Marsha enters with Batman and Robin as toads. Oh my goodness, it worked. What are we going to do? Because they've also got their voices. You know?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. What? I mean, come on, right? This sounds like maybe for once we got a real problem here, and it's not something that, you know, it's not like you can grab the utility belt or do something, you know. She wants the Bat Diamond. And, you know, there's some more bantering back and forth and little jokes as she threatens to have her cat eat them if Gordon doesn't help her make this happen and such. And then suddenly they appear by the window, the two of them. They're alive. They're normal. Those aren't them as toads. And what do we get? And this is why I've got a real problem. It's like you've got this thin episode. You have moments that you could have put more action and more. And what did they do? They then spend the next minute or two monologuing, like expository. It's all, this is what we did. Why are you telling me what you did? You should have shown me that throughout the whole episode.
Yeah, it's like the budget of this one must have been $5.
Exactly. You spent nothing on this episode other than the Bat Diamond. Maybe that's it. Maybe the Bat Diamond blew the budget.
Well... Yeah. Well, changing a disco glitter ball into a diamond shape would cost a pretty penny.
So, of course, you know, it's the end of the episode. You think maybe even, because she tells the mogul to get them, and, of course, they quickly incapacitate him. Suddenly this big bad man is you know, and it's done by Robin. He's the one who pushes him into the windowsill and closes the window, pinning him down.
Mm-hmm.
You know, which I liked. I did like him, but it sort of diminished him as like the big bad.
Yeah, that was a little bit quick.
Yeah. What? Well, we're getting to the end of the episode. We got to move things along here. I mean, we don't even get at the end with the epilogue. The epilogue wasn't even that long. It was very brief.
Now, girls, after you've added the baking powder and salt, throw in a dash of ground lizard to give it flavor.
Ground lizard?
Did I say ground lizard? I meant garlic, of course. Then a teaspoonful of oregano.
All the time, Aunt Hilda was a frustrated cook.
Yes, I think she'll be much happier with her recipes than with her potions.
I just hope she doesn't turn the students into toads. Bruce, would you believe it if I told you I had a wart on my thumb?
Yes, I'd believe it, Dick. But who else would?
And another refrigerator cardboard box set.
Yes. But it is a staple, though, of, you know, more of the first season, where as Bruce Wayne, Bruce is able to help at least somebody who's involved in this caper try and live a better life as Hilda becomes a cooking school teacher.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
With a pinch of ground lizard in it.
Yeah. And also, this is our only appearance in the entire episode of Bruce and Dick.
Yeah. It was like a joy to see them. It's like,
yes.
Oh, good.
It's like a joy, and then what? It's like all of a minute and a half, 2 minutes tops. Oh.
And you know the actors are thinking, hey, you know, you could have put us in our civvies for a lot longer in this episode.
Yeah, there were definitely opportunities there, I think. Well, we're going to get, because I want to talk about this. I want to talk about the writer, because this, I was doing, like I said, I did some research on it, was looking it up, and it's interesting how this episode came about, at least what little I could find on it. But first, I just want to talk first about Carolyn Jones herself. I mean, as I said before, she's basically playing the evil, and I know that sounds ironic, the evil version of Morticia. Because, you know, I mean, there's a lot of people who equate Goth as evil, but Morticia was a good person. It was just, she liked the dark and the macabre. Marsha is bad. And, you know, she's drolling darling just like Morticia does.
Oh, yeah. I guess for the whole thing, I'm sitting there going, they must have had the three main characters from the Addams family still on contract, because they all show up in the second season. So that I always found a little bit strange. But, yeah, she's doing Morticia, and she will always be known for Morticia. I mean, she did a great job. But for me, it's like, can't she bring something else to this one? Mm-hmm. But it could just be the character. I mean, it's a dull character. Maybe there isn't a lot she could do with it. She's not given anything.
Well, I have to wonder, was this something they wrote in a hurry? Because it is true, you were saying about Addams Family and still being under contract, because the Addams Family had just been canceled.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it's interesting because she shows up. A few weeks later, we're going to get John Astin as the Riddler. And I forget, did Ted Cassidy also... I know he made the appearance...
Yes, Ted Cassidy as Lurch makes a cameo in a Penguin episode.
But that's also coming up, too, isn't it? It hasn't happened yet, if I'm remembering correctly.
It hasn't happened yet, but they do have the three mainstays of the Addams Family. The three actors do show up in the second season.
And I forget if Addams Family was a 20th Century Fox show. I mean, I know it was an ABC show, so maybe somehow or another they were able to work that out.
Back then, you still got paid, even if your show got canceled. You got paid for your 3 years or whatever. But sometimes the conditions were, well, you still got to sing for your supper. You know, you're getting paid, so we want you to take this on.
Now, in terms of Marsha herself, you know, the Queen of Diamonds, the character... we've pretty much figured there's not much substance to her. But I have to wonder, did they come up with this villain specifically for Carolyn Jones? Or I read somewhere, and is this true, that Zsa Zsa Gabor was under consideration for the role?
Yeah, and she did it in the third season. It was almost the exact same character.
Minerva?
Minerva.
Yeah.
And for a third season episode, she actually got production value. She was covered with diamonds.
Yes. Well, you have to wonder whether it's her own.
True. But yeah, I could see her playing this a lot better than I could Carolyn. And I have no problem with Carolyn Jones. I think she was a fine actress, but she just didn't gel with me on this episode.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Although the one thing, and I said it before, the one thing I did like was her anger, her indignation at Batman treating, you know, a poor woman like Aunt Harriet the way he did. I did like that. That was a nice touch there. And it also shows you, you know, again, it's like you wish almost like, this is a character I'd like to learn more about. It left me wanting more because there wasn't enough there. There wasn't enough going on. That now I'm just too curious. Because, again, she wasn't bad. She's not a bad actress, Carolyn Jones, not at all. She tried her best with what she had to work with. Whereas some other villains, like, you know, I'm sorry, Art Carney as the Archer, I'll always keep coming back. I don't care. I don't care about the Archer. I don't want to know anymore. I'm glad it was a one turn. But it's like when it came to Marsha, you kind of almost feel like, okay, come on, you got this Marsha. You know, there's so much more we could have explored, so much more we could do. And it just was never realized for whatever reasons.
Yeah, it's like you have a fine actress that can do so much more. I mean, she worked on some great things in her lifetime, and she's given a kindergarten script.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And nothing of substance for this character, which is a shame because that could have been the show.
The odd part of it all is that this episode, in terms of the writing, has a decent pedigree. And I don't get it. According to IMDb, they credit that Lorenzo Semple developed the idea, and then Stanford Sherman wrote the script. I'm like, Lorenzo Semple? Stanford Sherman, who wrote my favorite Penguin episode, His Honor the Penguin. I love because that is so full of political satire. It's so biting. And then we get this?
Lorenzo Semple was attached to this one. Oh my God!
Yeah, as far as developing the story, I mean, I wonder maybe he came up with Marsha, Queen of Diamonds. Maybe he developed the villain, and then Sherman had to write the story.
Yeah, I have a lot of respect for Lorenzo, but then I also remember he's partly responsible for the movie.
Yes,
which I have some problems.
Which you have some problems. Okay, that's okay.
But he also did a lot of good on the show. So to find that, he had a hand in this episode, I'm like, really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And Sherman, like I said, I love his Honor the Penguin. He's going to write the next Marsha story, which has her teaming up with Penguin. So I'm a little worried there. I don't know. I don't remember that one very much at all. He also wrote the first Batgirl story, Enter Batgirl, Exit Penguin.
Huh.
So, and I will say this much, that one didn't have much plot either, but then again, that's excusable because that story was more to set up Batgirl than anything else.
Right, and it was very compact, being a half an hour. In his defense, or in the defense of the studio, His Honor the Penguin is a very big episode. Mm-hmm. Lots of actors, lots of locations, lots of production value. Maybe that took some of the budget away from this one.
They are close enough in time-wise, yeah. Let's get to the trivia question then. I take these trivia questions from Joel Eisenerz, the official Batman Batbook here. And for this episode, Alfred comes in at the beginning of the second episode and introduces himself as a lawyer representing a law firm. What was the name of the law firm that he represented?
Oh gosh. I think it's Soames, Stillwell, and Thistlewaite.
There you go. Oh. That's a mouthful too. When he said it, I was impressed.
Well, that's Alan Napier. You got that British accent in there, and he can make anything sound good.
And he actually he did a little. So I guess that was part of his disguise. He altered his accent just a little.
I think, from what I've heard, and maybe this, is that he was supposed to be from a different area of London in the episode, but he asked the producers to change it to a particular city.
He did. I something of Morton, I forget, a real one, because they were actually making up a London name, and he was just like, why can't we just actually name an area in England and just do it like that? So they agreed to it. And it's something of Morton. And apparently the townsfolk, when they saw that on their TVs, they were all thrilled that they were on a Batman episode.
Yeah, it's like Morton on the Marsh or something.
That's it, Morton on the Marsh. You were correct. I knew it was Morton something, and I wasn't sure about the Marsh part, but you're correct, Morton on the Marsh. What's your favorite Bat gadget? Or was there a favorite Bat gadget in this episode?
Actually, there was. I guess not so much a gadget, but definitely a Bat prop. And I like the Bat Diamond.
You like the Bat?
I thought that was a neat new prop that they did use again in the series as a background prop, and it was fun.
I liked the Bat Diamond, but I'd actually have to say I was more fascinated with the two devices surrounding it. Alfred down below, where he's got the power, to turn it on with the big switch, and Batman and Robin up top as they're I guess finishing the process of creating it and such. In their and they have the Bat press, right? And of course the Bat extension phone, which the phone rings, he doesn't pick it up. Alfred picks it up first.
Why don't you just pick it up? You're right there.
Yes. Okay, so we come to the end of this episode, and you've been watching it. You are Robin the Boy Wonder. It's over, and you turn to Batman and exclaim, "Holy what?"
Gosh, I'd have to say, "Holy sleeping pill!"
Oh yeah, puts you to sleep, doesn't it?
Oh well, I felt like Robin in that cage.
Yeah, it just it was tough. It was tough watching, and I never, there's some Batman episodes where you're kind of like, this one isn't as good, but there's always more to it that at least you can smile and walk. This one just really, with the exception of the whole, and that's the irony, the whole wedding scene in the beginning of the second episode, that's the only thing that stands out, really.
Yeah, you don't even remember anything about the bat fights. I mean,
no, you don't.
Yeah, it's lots of talk, bat fight, lots of talk, bat fight, end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, lots of talk with no, nothing in the way of detection or moving a plot along or anything. It's all just moments. A few weeks ago, Jay Smith was on, and he commented on how sometimes he actually finds himself zoning out a little bit when they're doing the talk, because it's like he just realizes that the talk is just leading on to the next point in, the story. But it's like, okay, we don't really get to the whole point in a lot of the. And I found that with the scenes with Aunt Hilda and Marsha. I actually kind of zoned out when they were talking.
Yeah, it's, when the writing is spot on, the detecting and the talking between, like, the dynamic duo is important to listen to. And I don't zone out on those. But this was one of those where it's, you start checking your watch, is there anything going on Facebook?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. And like I said, at the very beginning, it's like, oh, I'm taking one for the team.
You definitely are. You definitely are, as I said before. I myself would say holy lovey-dovey. I mean, just what a waste. What a waste of an episode. And again, I was never... I like the Addams Family. I like Carolyn Jones. Again, and I will say this much. What a waste of her talent.
Oh, yeah.
What a waste of her talent, a waste of time, and just a waste of everything. It's a shame. Something else I caught on to, we were talking about how Adam has a certain way of talking, as the series goes on, he becomes more Shatner-esque. He's also got a certain way of walking. In this particular episode, it really stood out. It's like, because there's no real plot, because there's not a lot of action, it's all... like, he's got a weirder stance to him. It's he doesn't know what to do with himself, because in the earlier episodes there was more dramatic. I mean, when he spoke, he spoke with conviction, and he spoke with, he was saying something important, so he could actually have that heroic pose. Now he's just kind of like loping in as he walks into Marsha's headquarters, and he doesn't strike that heroic pose because, again, the dialogue is so awful. In those particular scenes. Meanwhile, there's Burt Ward. Always, he's Robin. He's on, and he makes it work no matter what. He does his best to do it. I
always appreciated the heck out of that of Burt. It's like, no matter how bad it was, he's Robin. And Adam, Adam had a lot of the dialogue in this one, and he's, like you said, he's almost like walking like a runway model.
Yes.
In some of those.
And we'll see that continue on into the third season, because again, he's going to get saddled with this, and it's like, what do I do? How do I, it's just not the same dramatic impact that it had in the first season, that was sprinkled with the comedy.
Right. Well, there's no urgency, and that's what made the show work so well. Is that in a way it was like second season Man from U.N.C.L.E. is what the first season of Batman was. An adventure show with comedic tones.
Right. So, as we come to the end of this episode, Robert, how can people follow along with what you're doing, with what's going on with you and the Batman universe? What is the Batman page? I mean, what is the exact title of it on Facebook that people can, join in on the group there?
Okay. Well, yeah, I'd be happy to say that. It's called the 1966-1968 Batman television series, and this page is devoted strictly to the show and the movie, and we post pictures from those shows, and we talk about the vehicles and the actors and this and that, and it's really in keeping with just that time period, and we have a lot of fun.
We do actually have a lot of fun on the page, because it's funny. I didn't realize it until I started doing the podcast. There's quite a number of Batman pages, but yours is, well, first of all, it's a lot of fun, but also I learned a few things on your page that I don't really learn anywhere else, where most of the other pages are just picture posting, and it's usually the same pictures.
And I run that risk, John, of being a guy that knows stuff and tells you about it.
There's nothing wrong with that, though. There's nothing wrong with that.
There isn't, but sometimes people are like, can't I just have my fantasy?
Oh, no. You can still have your fantasy but it's, like I said, for me, I'm enjoying learning these things and realizing, I mean, I've never ever held up Batman as like something that like couldn't have its moments of tarnishing. I mean, with any show, it has to be that way, and I still respect and I love it and I enjoy it and I'm having a great time going through the series now. I'm the same way with my other show, The $6 Million Man, that I'm reviewing on Cyborgs. I love that show to pieces. I think Lee Majors, and then people think I'm crazy, I think Lee Majors is a great actor, but
hey, he worked on how many television series?
Yes.
I mean, you don't do that by being bad.
Yeah, exactly. And again, at the same time, I know when to say, hey, wait a minute, no, that was wrong, and you shouldn't have done that, or I don't sit there and say every little bit of what we do is, and as we see in this episode, this is, for Marsha, this was one that, they should have avoided.
And this brings up, real quickly, something that I wrote to you in a message, John, a long time ago. It's like, you should really be kinder to some of these first season episodes.
Yes. Yes, that's true. I actually was a little, at times, harsh on some of the first season ones, and now they're like, gold compared to... They're like, this is how you should write every episode of Batman. Even well, that's the thing. I'll always say this much. When it comes to the first season, even a lesser first season episode, and I'll say lesser because there is no bad first season episodes. There's lesser ones, and the lesser ones are still far superior to anything we see in the second and third season.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, that's why I was like, man, you're in for a world of pain come the second season.
Yeah, you weren't kidding. You weren't kidding. So I'll definitely put a link up there. And as far as yourself, was there anything there you wanted to I just want to say, I mean, if anybody wants to contact me via the Batman television series, I am also an independent filmmaker. I've done some Batman fan films. I just want to say this has been a real pleasure, John. Oh, no, real pleasure for me, too. Now, you just shocked me. I didn't know you did some fan films. Do you have any of those, like, on YouTube?
I have to upload some. There is actually a fan film on the page done by two other people that I did the special effects for, and you can find those links in my Batman group.
Okay, because I would love to put those also up on the show notes as well.
Yeah, so it's they did something in 1989, and I kind of beefed up the production.
Oh, that is cool. That is cool because I do enjoy. I like fan films. I think it's great the way people get together and just share their love and again, it's not about the money. It's just about the love of your fandom.
Oh, absolutely. And I feel very lucky. In my time as being a Batman fan, I have gotten to ride in the original Batmobile.
Oh, very nice.
I used to live out in North Hollywood where it was stationed. I have gotten to see the Joke-mobile up close. I mean, I've gotten to meet so many wonderful people from the show and through the show. So it's been a real blessing, this entire TV series.
That is cool. The Joke-mobile too. Wow. So we're going to wrap up things here, and we're going to talk about, let's see.
Next week, Cliff Robertson as Shame corrals the Caped Crusaders.
Now, I know a lot of people don't like him, but I seem to remember loving him as a kid. So I'm hoping that my memory isn't cheating here. Joining me to discuss this episode is HG World creator and producer Jay Smith. So until next time, citizens, thanks so much for listening. Take care, chums. Take care, Robert. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening, chums. I don't have a bat phone, but you can contact the Batcave Podcast through its Facebook page, Twitter, email at thebatcavepodcast@gmail.com, or by phone at 888-866-9010. Subscribe to the podcast via Libsyn.com. That's LIBSYN.com, or through iTunes. The Batcave Podcast is part of a series of pop culture podcasts from the Chronic Rift Network. Find them at chronicrift.com. So until next time, citizens, same bat time, same Batcave Podcast.
Thanks to the extraordinary transmitting powers of the Bat Diamond, which you've been after, we were able to carry on some long-distance computations in the Batcave.
After we wired the bars of the cell to convert them to a radio aerial.
You see, the tumbler lock on the cell door only had 3,724,521 possible combinations.